Trisha, it's me Jenny, and this is another not particularly naked response to your Naked Truth series, and this is a video response to your subject of attracting people. And before I start, I have to say that this is not a subject that I'm particularly familiar or experienced with. In my personal life, I haven't really just had that much experience with romantic relationships. It's just something that has passed me by, perhaps. I don't consider myself a romantic. I don't think I've ever been in love. And it's just not a situation that I put myself into very often where meeting new people in a romantic way could happen. That being said, whether or not I'm starting a romantic relationship or a platonic friendship-based relationship, there are a lot of things that I do take into consideration which apply to both. One of the main things, which is kind of sad in its way, is the logic of that relationship. Simply, location is very important. If I'm able to have physical, personal contact with this person on a regular basis that can sustain the relationship, then that is a good thing. If it's a long-distance relationship and we don't have time to build a sort of baseline before that separation happens, then it's not going to be a productive relationship. Similarly, if it's, for example, a work-based relationship and we can't stand each other, we're going through a rough period and we can't get away from each other, that could help really build a strong relationship, or it could destroy it. And this, again, applies to romantic and platonic relationships. So I do take these sort of things into consideration when I'm starting any sort of relationship. Similarly, if someone approaches me and they are rude, mentally unstable, or too old, or too young, out of my age bracket, it's not something that I'm going to be invested in. Again, that does vary between a romantic and a platonic relationship. I can be friends with someone who's older or younger than me, but I don't think I could be romantically involved with someone who is, say, 5 years younger than me, or someone who is 7-10 years older. So it's a balance. So those sort of things really do logically impair my ability to start a romantic relationship, and it is something to consider. If you are approaching someone and they are much younger or much older than you, then you have to take that into consideration. And similarly, if they refuse you because you live in another country, don't be offended. So it's a lot of things that I consider in terms of logic. In terms of character, if someone is rude to me or someone around me, or about a race or a gender or ethnicity or something specifically, if they are unpleasant to me or someone around me or in my vicinity, I'm not going to be attracted to that person. And it's sort of an unfair gender stereotype that more often than not it's a man pursuing a woman. And it is something that I've definitely felt victim to in a way, because I don't feel like I would be confident enough to pursue someone in a romantic relationship, and therefore I put pressure on mostly men to therefore approach me. And that puts a huge amount of pressure on them, because not only do they have to make the original contact, they have to be able to put up with possibly being refused, and they also have to really borderline between what is considered to be attractive, which is to be charismatic and funny and confident, which is very, very difficult, and not being an asshole. And it's very easy in a way to get it's a knife point. It's very easy to balance. It's very hard to get that balance between being unpleasant and being confident, and it's very easy to, if you're trying to be confident and faking, to become unpleasant, and that's something that really puts me off. Similarly, being truthful. I'd much rather hear an unpleasant truth than catch someone in a lie. I'd much rather someone be honest with me in a friendship or a romantic relationship. If I catch them in a lie, then I'm not going to consider them a friend. I'm not going to have that level of trust. There is someone that I have regular contact with, who I know is untrustworthy, and if you call them on a lie, they will immediately bounce that back and accuse you of lying. And they are in a relationship with a significant other, and I feel so sorry for that significant other because I know that they are unfaithful to their significant other, and that is the sort of person I can never ever consider myself being with, no matter how charismatic, rich, important or good looking they are. That is not someone that I consider myself being with. So yeah, that's another thing I do seriously take into consideration. And just being yourself, and it's very, very hard to be yourself, and it's very, very hard to kind of, if you feel, it's very hard to approach someone knowing the possibility of being rejected and then to accept rejection. But I think you have to try, and you have to expect and accept to a certain extent that there is a possibility you may be rejected, because I don't really believe in destiny, I don't really believe in a perfect match. But if someone is not wanting to be in that relationship, then you shouldn't pursue them against their will, because that's when problems occur. Things like the nice guy syndrome is one of the epitomes of that. If you believe that if you're meeting someone for the first time, openly state that you want a relationship with them and what that relationship should be. That's why internet dating is so useful, because you can say, I want friendship, I want intimate relations, or I want romance. You can say that, and then you can find people who want the same thing. It's very easy to connect. It's much more difficult to say that in person, but it is so important. Similarly, if you have a friendship with someone and you want to move it on to the next level, as it were, and it's not really the next level, it's just a different type of level into a romantic relationship, you need to say it. It needs to come out honestly. If you believe that relationship has changed and you want it to change, you have to say it, because otherwise you get into a situation where you are helping someone and making them perhaps feel uncomfortable, while trying to be nice and trying to do it for your own gain. And that's when you maybe not realising it, but becoming an unpleasant part of their life, because you're forcing yourself on them in a friendship way when you want something else. And it's very difficult to say honestly that you want the relationship to change, and there is a risk to that relationship changing. But if you don't say anything, then it's just going to be uncomfortable for both of you. And I have got way more into this situation than I should have done, considering how inexperienced I am in terms of romantic relationships. But I think these are all useful things. These are things that I have discussed with many, many friends in many different ways. And it's just something I wanted to talk about. I'm sorry about the weird angle. Usually I film at my desk, but I can just about get to my DVDs, but there's boxes all over my floor because the attic's being emptied. So I apologise for the bad lighting. I apologise for not being naked. I did discuss it with Trisha in a private video, and she was so kind as to say, you know, if you don't feel comfortable putting yourself out there, and I explained all my reasons, that I'm not going to do it because it's my own choice. So if you're disappointed, you can live with it. Feel free to comment and do all the things you know.